A viewer left this comment on this video. And they say, everyone keeps saying, don't tell anyone you're traveling alone, which is a safe choice, but nobody ever says what they say when asked. Do you just say no and change the subject? Or do you say, your husband is in the room? Why or why not? And I thought it was such a good comment and about time that we address it. They're right. As solo travelers, something that we often say, all of us, is just don't tell people you're traveling alone. But we never say what you can say instead. So if you're new to solo travel, you're most likely going to get this question somewhere along your journey. If you're not sure what to say, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to share with you how I normally approach this question and what I like to say when someone asks me that. So firstly, the most important thing I think is that I tend to approach these situations individually, because a lot of what I will say back to that person depends on the situation, the context, where I am, also what kind of mood I'm in. But the most important thing that I can drive home is something that I have said in multiple videos, and that is to trust your gut. Trust your gut and let that be your guide. Because at the end of the day, this might sound harsh, but you don't owe anyone anything. And it's important to remember that. So if someone is asking you that and it's making you uncomfortable, just know in the back of your mind, you don't have to explain your choices or how you like to travel to anybody, and they don't deserve an explanation from you. So I just wanted to address that and get that out the way first and foremost. And then another thing I just wanted to quickly address is also sometimes in the moment, I try to just quickly analyze or figure out the motive behind why someone is asking me that. Because if I can quickly kind of analyze why someone is asking me that, I can move forward from there. So for example, there's a very big difference between if someone is asking me that because they're just genuinely curious, or because they're also traveling alone and they want someone to explore the city with, or they're asking me that because they're low-key trying to shame me or trying to figure out something. And all of that is going to define how I move forward and how I answer that question, if I even answer it at all. Okay, so keeping that in mind, every situation is going to be completely different. If I don't feel like I'm in danger, I don't feel my spirit isn't in some sort of check, then we'll usually proceed in one of three ways. Tell the truth, make something up, or flip it. So let's get into each one of these things. So starting with the first one, tell the truth. In certain situations, if I'm traveling alone and someone asks me, hey, are you traveling alone? Are you by yourself? Whatever. I tell the truth. This usually happens because there are some situations where the jig is up. It's very obvious and clear that I'm traveling solo, and I can't really hide the fact that I'm traveling solo, at least not in that moment. And I'm okay with being honest about it, especially if someone is asking me that and I don't feel uncomfortable, I don't feel like I'm in danger, and I think it's okay to just tell the truth. For example, there have been many times where I have been traveling solo and say I am in a shared accommodation, like an Airbnb or a hostel, and either I'm staying in a room where there are other rooms with other travelers, or I'm staying in a hostel and maybe I'm in a shared room and I just have a bed and there's a few other travelers there. For example, a few years ago, I was traveling solo in London and I stayed at this really nice Airbnb, and there was a room across the hall that was vacant. They were also renting out to travelers, and this guy came, I think the day after I did. He was from Tennessee. He was also traveling alone, and he asked me if I was traveling solo. I told him I was, and we ended up spending the whole day together. We went everywhere. We ate dinner, lunch together. It was so fun. I had such a great time with him. It wasn't creepy, and I didn't feel awkward. I didn't feel weird. I didn't feel in danger at any point. I felt fine. That's a situation, for example, where I'm honest about traveling alone, because it was obvious that he was traveling alone. It was obvious that I was traveling alone, and he was asking me that because he wanted someone to hang out with, and we ended up hanging out the whole day in London, and we had a great time. Another example is a long time ago. I was traveling a little through Spain. I was in San Sebastian in the Basque Country, and I was at a hostel on the beach. In that situation, I was a little bit younger. There was a lot of different travelers, solo, couples, groups, in my age range, and of course it was obvious that I was traveling solo. There was also a couple of other people that were traveling solo, and someone asked me if I was traveling solo. Of course I disclosed that I was, and again, we all went out. We all went to this big group dinner together. We just walked around the city. We ate pinchos, had a fantastic time, went back to the hostel, played games. It was so much fun. And again, that's another situation where I was honest about traveling alone, because it was clear and obvious that all of those people wanted to hang out together and wanted to spend time in the city together. I also didn't feel like I was in danger. Nothing felt off to me. I felt fine about disclosing that I was traveling alone. And then, I had people to hang out with. So it was a win-win for everybody. With that being said, though, I do want to say that although in these particular situations you are being honest, you still want to have your guard up and be aware of your surroundings, and also aware of what you're disclosing, how much, and also how you're feeling. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and you're talking to them and everything seems fine, and then all of a sudden something shifts? Maybe they say something or they do something and you're like, all of a sudden now I'm not feeling so great about this person or this conversation. I'm sure everyone has had those experiences. So these things can happen, right? So although you are being honest, you still want to have your guard up, because as much as I don't want us, walking around being super paranoid and thinking the worst of everyone, I also think that it's okay, as solo travelers, it's okay to have a healthy skepticism of people and situations, because at the end of the day, you're responsible for keeping yourself safe, and you have to still have fun and still be open to people and open to meeting people if that's what you want, but also just want to proceed with caution. Especially because I think, and this is just my opinion, I think it's better to be like that, to have a healthy skepticism, than the opposite, and then you are completely oblivious and you're setting yourself up for the okie doke. You get what I'm saying here? I think that's just a safer choice as a solo traveler, but that's just my opinion. Now, I want to be clear here. I don't like lying. I try to stay as true to my convictions as possible, and I'm not saying that I never lie. Obviously, I'm not perfect. However, if I feel uncomfortable, I'm not willing to compromise my safety, and I will put my acting skills to the test and I will make something up. Now, me personally, because I'm extra, I like to get super creative with it, and I have made up whole personalities, whole people with all these backstories, and I'm weird like that. I've been an executive for a large corporation, a beginner chef, a documentary creator, traveling across the globe with her crew, but I'm just dramatic, so it doesn't have to be as elaborate or as detailed as I'm making it be, but I feel like sometimes I just like to have a little fun with it. Normally when I make something up, that is when I am not quite sure, like maybe I can't decipher the situation, I can't decipher the motive behind why someone is asking me this. I don't feel comfortable telling the truth. But with this, there's just so many different things that you can say. Some of the things that I've heard people say and some of the things I've said in the past, and just can say, nope, I'm waiting on friends. They went to the museum. I've already been to that museum. So I'm just hanging out by myself until I meet up with them. My best friend lives here. They're at work and I'm just waiting for them to get off. Oh, they should be getting off soon. I'm actually here for a really big work conference, a large group of us here. I'm just hanging out here to get a little me time. No, I'm not. My brother actually lives here. He's actually a boxing instructor. He's doing a boxing course right now. I'm just waiting for him to finish so we can go grab lunch. Just think inside your most creative part of your brain and just make something up. So the third thing that I do, again, depending on the situation, is I flip it. So this isn't something I do very often. I do this very sparingly. The only time I really do this is when I feel like someone is being a little snarky or intrusive. I feel like this person is trying to shame me in some way. What I mean by flip it is kind of like a who's asking, what's it to you anyway? It's almost like a reverse psychology kind of thing. Flip it is just something that I do when I'm feeling cheeky. Not everything deserves a response. Proceed with caution. I feel like I sound like I'm being really aggressive, but until it's happened to you, it's kind of hard to explain. I really hope this doesn't make me sound like I'm a bad person. It's just, people really, man, I have had a couple people that will ask me things like, am I traveling alone? But it's not I'm genuinely curious if you're traveling alone, or, oh, you're traveling alone. It's a girl like you shouldn't be traveling on her own and blah, 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 blah. That's when I'll flip it. But with that one, you kind of want to use caution because you just don't know who you're dealing with. And we all know you don't want to aggravate or agitate the wrong person, especially when you're traveling and you're in a city or even a country that is not your own. You want to just be very careful with what you're saying. I don't even know if that's clear. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but hopefully that makes sense to you. And I'm sure all you other solo travelers, I'm sure you guys can attest. Please comment below with any of your different solo travel stories. I feel like we all have very shared lived experiences when it comes to this. Sometimes it's not worth it. Like, especially, I will say this, and I feel like I need to say this. If you feel like you're in danger, and if you feel like this person is really making me uncomfortable, kind of poking and prodding and seem a little too intrusive, that's when I go back to what I was saying before in the beginning, where you don't owe anyone anything, because sometimes it's not even worth an explanation. It's just worth you getting out of there to make yourself feel safe. So if that's the case, then don't even bother explaining. Just get out of there. I also do my best to try to have grace for people, because I also know that people tend to, myself included, all of us, we tend to move through the world through our very specific viewpoints and perspectives. And I know that sometimes for some people, the idea of traveling alone is so outside of their perspective and day-to-day life, it's rare to them, that it's difficult to even imagine someone doing that or wanting to do that. But I think by now, after all this ranting, you kind of, hopefully y'all understand what kind of comments I'm talking about. But if you don't, then I probably just did a very poor job of explaining it, and I will try to explain further in the comments below. If you're solo traveling, it is important to keep yourself safe. And if you're looking on practical tips on how to implement that, you can check out this video right here. There's also a playlist. I also have a playlist called All About Solo Female Travel that you can also check out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.